What's up, y'all? It's your girl Brandy from Stay Snatched, and today we're making Air Fryer Spatchcock Chicken. This is the best way to make tender and delicious chicken.
We are in the kitchen today and we are making an air fryer spatchcock chicken. And if you've ever seen all of those beautiful whole chicken photos on Instagram or in magazines where the legs are just perfectly situated on the plate and the chicken is cooked up so beautifully, that's this method. It's basically a method of butterflying a chicken. So to do that, you remove the backbone off of the back of the chicken, and it allows the chicken to lay flat, and you can kind of press those breasts down and the breastbone down, which will allow it to lay on a flat surface and cook at a more even and consistent temperature. Typically, when you roast a whole chicken, the legs and the wings are the first to start to brown, and you risk them being burned before the rest of your chicken is fully cooked. So this will help make it easier to get a fully cooked chicken that's even. All of the skin is crisp and nice and consistent. It's just so amazing. And so we're going to do this in the air fryer today. Also, with making a spatchcock chicken, it typically will cut your time down versus roasting it the regular way where the legs are up. And so I do have a whole air fryer whole chicken recipe on my site that takes about an hour to do. We'll save maybe 20 minutes or more doing it this method, and you're just going to be so excited because of how easily that chicken will cook up. One thing that I hate when I'm roasting a chicken is how much I have to kind of look at the wings and the legs to make sure that they're not overcooking. And so you don't have to deal with all of that with this method. And it's actually super easy to do. To remove that backbone from the back of that chicken, I have cooking shears. I'll provide a link below in the description box to where I get these on Amazon. They're really easy to use, and you can really just cut through that skin alongside that backbone using these. You can obviously cut with the knife as well. I just find using the shears to be a lot easier. And so for my chicken, this chicken's about 4.5 pounds. Typically when you get a whole young chicken, they range anywhere from 4 pounds to maybe 5.5. Maybe some are even 6 pounds. And so this one I get from Butcher Box. It's organic chicken. It's about 4.5 pounds. To thaw your chicken, typically you do want to plan a little bit in advance. I find the easiest method is to thaw the chicken in cold water. So you can get probably a bowl bigger than this and fill it with some cold water. And while that chicken is still in the packaging, place it in there. You will need to swap out that cold water every 30 minutes. And on average, it'll take you 30 minutes per pound of chicken that you have to defrost it in cold water. So with this 4.5 pound chicken, it'll take about 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, to defrost it in cold water. A method that I love to use, especially when I know I'm going to be making this in advance, is to just pull the chicken out from my freezer, place it in a bowl like this, because there's going to be some dripping as it thaws in the fridge. And so I'll do that sometimes 2 days in advance to make sure it's fully thawed, and then it can continue to just chill out in the fridge a little bit. According to the USDA, you should never try to thaw your whole chicken at room temperature. So definitely plan in advance, get you some cold water, or thaw it in the fridge overnight or a couple of days in advance. And so to season up your chicken, you have so many different options. What you first want to do is to make sure your chicken is completely dry. So pat it down on both sides. Another thing to inspect is if it comes with the giblets inside or if those are removed. And so the giblets are kind of like those inner intestines and areas and stuff like that. A lot of people, when you buy a whole chicken, a lot of places, I guess, stores and butchers will provide maybe a pouch along with the whole chicken. When you open it up, you'll see a pouch, and they will have already removed them for you. And then you can just throw those in gravies or chicken stocks and things like that if you need to use them. This one, it just came without them. So I didn't have to reach into that cavity and pull anything out. And they also didn't give me a pouch with them. And so depending on kind of what you're looking for, take note of that when you buy your chicken, because if they are not removed, you're going to have to remove those first. You don't want to roast up a chicken with those waiting for you inside. And so once you've inspected if the giblets are removed or remove them, make sure your chicken is completely dry. That will help the spices and olive oil, which is my first ingredient that I'm going to use, adhere to the chicken. And also it being dry will help it cook up at an even and consistent temperature. Keywords that I keep saying, even and consistent, because when you're roasting a chicken, that's what you want. You want everything to cook at the same time and on the same wavelength, so you're not slicing into some areas of the chicken that aren't done. And so we rub this down with some olive oil. A few different ways you can season it. My favorite way is to use some Creole seasoning, smoked paprika, and just a little bit of salt and pepper. You don't need much because this Creole seasoning does have some sodium in it. And it's really hard. I'll provide some detailed measurements in the description box below. But when you're working with whole meats and meats of this size, what I generally just recommend is to use enough seasoning to completely saturate every inch of this bird. And so if you see any areas that don't have any spices, go ahead and sprinkle on a little bit more. You also want to rub the spices into the chicken so that it actually penetrates that meat and gets you some good flavor. Another thing people like to do is also focus on getting some of that spice under the skin, because then it will definitely penetrate that meat. And then I'll provide another way you can season this chicken in the description box below. It's just a standard way to season a lot of poultry, like chicken and turkey, kind of with some oregano and some thyme and things like that. Just a classic mix. But today I'm going to make mine with some Creole seasoning, smoked paprika. I love smoked paprika because of the flavor, gives it a nice little smoky hint, but also the color, y'all. The color really just pops on especially poultry, but even steaks when you use smoked paprika. And so that's just my preference. In terms of my air fryer, I'm using the Cosori 5.8 quart. It's my all-time favorite, never steers me wrong. That's a good thing to mention, is that this is a almost 6-quart air fryer, and this is a 4.5-pound turkey, y'all. 4.5-pound chicken. It will fit in my air fryer, but if you're using something smaller, or if you have a much larger bird, definitely take some inventory and look at that to see if this will fit into your air fryer. So let's get started, y'all. We're gonna remove the backbone from this chicken. We're gonna rub it down with some oil and spices and get it in the air fryer.
So first I have a 4.5-pound whole chicken here, and I'm gonna run my fingers along the side of the neck and the back of this chicken to locate the backbone. Then I'm gonna use my kitchen shears just to cut along the edge of that backbone. I'm going to do that on both sides to remove that backbone completely. Then once I have it off, sometimes I like to trim some of the little excess fat that remains just to clean it up just a little bit. And then in this middle top, that's the breastbone cartilage area. I just put a little snip through that to let the breast lay flat on the front side. And I'm going to tuck these wings behind the breast. It's going to make them look nice, and it'll also help prevent those from burning in the air fryer. I'm going to flip those drumsticks out. And next we're going to rub this down with some olive oil. You can start with about a tablespoon, but just use enough to fully coat the whole chicken. And then I'm using my favorite rub here. This is just half a tablespoon of Creole seasoning, a teaspoon of smoked paprika, and some salt and pepper to taste. You want to use enough spices to completely cover that chicken. You can also use your favorite chicken rub, and I'll give you some notes in the description box for a traditional chicken rub that you can use. So next we're going to load this into the air fryer. We're going to air fry it on 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes. You don't need to flip it, but you do need to make sure you cook it until it reaches an internal temperature of at least 165 degrees. I often cook it a little longer because I want to make sure I'm not slicing into any chicken that's still undercooked. So I cook it until it's crispy and tender. And there you have it.